Yeah, so this was the first verse, the prayer, and we've actually had a chance to go through it before. Some of you are joining for the first time, but luckily I know you from before. I don't think I know Manu from before. Would you like to introduce yourself, Manu?
Hello, everyone. I'm Manu. I am at Purdue doing my PhD in electrical engineering. And I haven't really had the chance to attend this meeting because I'm a night person and usually the meetings would be early according to
5 p.m.
today it's at 5 and I thought why not attend? So I'm here.
I like that. Good for you, Manu. We normally do it at 5 to 6 now. We don't do it at 11 a.m. anymore.
Oh.
It works better for everyone. I'm a night person too. Anyway, welcome. We can get going here. So you've missed a few classes, but we have not yet gotten, I guess the biggest question that we will struggle with in the first, I would say it's a central question that we struggle with for almost the first 1/3 of the class, which is understanding the word moksha. We'll spend a lot of time on it because the text that we are studying, it's named right here, Tattva Bodh, right? So the first verse, which is also the prayer, it's actually not part of the Tattva Bodh. The prayer says, Tattva Bodho Abhidhiyate. I am going to explain, or I'm going to present Tattva Bodha, which is the name of the text. And then it says, why? And so it says, why? It is for the hitarthaya. Hit is a Sanskrit word for the benefit, for the, for the benefit, for the gain. To have something good, auspicious, or something desirable happen to you is a hit. And artha is objective. So hitarthaya is with the objective of benefiting. And now he doesn't say benefiting all of humanity. He says, I'm going to talk about it for the benefit of mumukshanam. And mumukshunam, we've looked at this before. I'll break it up for you just a moment. Iksha is buried right here. And iksha of moksha together is referred to as mumukshu. Is somebody who is ikshu of moksha is referred to as a mumukshu. Sanskrit word for that. So somebody who is desirous, ikshu. So hitarthaya, for their benefit, or you could say for the satisfaction of their desire of moksha, I'm going to explain Tattva Bodho Abhidhiyate. So in the very first verse, and this is very typical of granthas, of literature that we come across in Vedanta, is it gets straight to the point. It likes to tell you what it's going to tell you. So although this is the prayer, it also tells you the objective of what it is. So he says, for the benefit of the individual seeking moksha, I'm going to explain abhidhiyate. And it's not just dhiyate, it's abhidhiyate, which means it's going to be properly presented in detail. So it's not a quick presentation. I'm going to properly present Tattva Bodha. And in the first class also, we talked a little bit about what is meant by the word Tattva Bodha. So Bodha, as you know, is, most of you understand the word Bodha. It's a Sanskrit word. It means to understand, to learn. Sometimes it is translated as knowledge, which is also true. It's the noun form of it. Tattva Bodha is the knowledge or the understanding of Tattva. And then, of course, the question becomes, what is Tattva? What do we mean by the word Tattva? It seems to hold the key here because it's the knowledge of Tattva. And in Sanskrit, Tat means that. Literally, the Sanskrit word that without the H is Tat. So it's idam is this and Tat is that. whatever is being pointed to is that. So what is being pointed to? Everything. So the word tat here represents everything, in the sense that whatever you are showing to me, you're going to refer to it as that, whatever that is. And tattva, so tat is that. So what is tattva? It is the essence of that. So the tattva, when you add the tva at the back of it, it is the essence of that. So I'm going to give tattva bodha, means an understanding of the essence of everything. That's literally what tattva bodha means. It's the understanding of the essence of everything, or the understanding of the fundamental reality of everything. Tattva is fundamental reality, the one reality that cannot be denied ever. So he says, Mumukshunam hitarthaya tattva bodho abhidhiyate. So now you understand all the 4 words on the bottom line of the prayer, which say that the subject matter of this is for the benefit of the mumukshu. A mumukshu is somebody who's ikshu of moksha. We talked about what is tattva bodha, and we said abhidhiyate, which means that it is not, yeah, that's another thing. It's not saying that I'm going to recite it for you to memorize. It didn't say that. It didn't say I'm going to recite it so that you may remember it and believe in it. No. It says abhidhiyate, I'm going to explain it to you. I'm going to teach you what this tattva bodha is, what is an understanding of the essence of reality. And then the first line is actually the prayers, where it says Vasudevendra Yogindram Natva. Natva is a form of the word namaste. Natva is having bodh, or having offered my prayers, or having recognized the blessings of Vasudeva, who is, of course, Vasudeva. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya is referring to Bhagwan himself here. But it's also a two-way street, because it turns out that this author's teacher's name was also Vasudeva. So he's kind of covering God and teacher at the same time. So he says Vasudevendra Yogindram. Yogindram is, there are yogis, and the Indra of the yogis is the ultimate yogi. So he refers to Bhagwan as Vasudevendra Yogendram. And then he says, I recognize both God and teacher at the same time. Jnana Pradam Guru, the teacher who is providing this knowledge. So the author here is saying that having recognized the presence of God, having recognized the presence of the teacher, and having, Natva is literally that, means that I recognize that this is all happening because they are giving this knowledge to me. And then that's the second verse of the prayer. So I hope that explains. And the reason I said that we are not making good progress, we are actually, you could say that we are meandering to the text right now because we don't know the meaning of the word moksha. Once we understand the meaning of the word moksha, we can move one step forward. The problem right now is that the text has declared itself to be mumukshunam hitarthaya. So the question then becomes, am I a mumukshu? Why should I read this text? Is it of value to me? It has declared itself to be of value to the mumukshu, and I don't know if I am a mumukshu or not. So first, and I don't know what mumukshu means, so I need to first figure out what moksha is. And then I'm going to have to think about, do I have a desire for it? And then maybe we can move forward on whether we want to study the Tattva Bodha or not. So the first several verses, we will be kind of not making, it will look like we're not making progress. Because as I said in Tattva Bodha, you're going to dedicate about the first 1/3 or 1/4 just to understanding the meaning of the word moksha. So just some bookkeeping, some information and details. These I talked about in one of the first sessions. We talked about what is Vedant. I don't want to go back to that, but if you have a question about it, you can always ask me and I'll come back to it and answer it again. I don't really want to go back to it right now. But we've had a long discussion of what is Vedant. Some of the notes are on this slide. We've actually been through all of this, so I don't want to go back to that. And that's why I said, at some point in time, we'll have to move on and just focus on covering the verses that we need to. Okay, so we've gone through all of this. We've talked about the Gita as well within this context. What is Vedanta? What is Gita? We have talked about what is Advaita Vedanta. We've talked about who is the creator of Advaita Vedanta, what is Vedanta and what is Advaita Vedanta? Are there two things, or what is the difference between them? We've gone through a brief discussion of Advaita, Dvaita, and of course, we've looked at the analogy that helps us understand all of that. So if there are any questions, I'll pause for a moment and let you phrase a question in case you have anything about this, because the next topic we're going to spend a few minutes talking about is, once again, we're going to talk about what do we mean by the word moksha. No questions? That's good. And I don't have to spend time talking about Advaita Vedanta again. We've talked about it before, and these things, these classes, in many ways are so repetitive that the question will come up automatically, organically as the discussion proceeds, and you'll be able to pose it again if you're not feeling like you want to ask it right now. Okay, so then I got to ask a question. We got to ask the question. Tough question. What do you think of moksha? What does it mean to you? That is the question. Remember, this is a Vedanta discussion group. This is not a monologue. I'm not monologuing here. I'm having a discussion. So you have to all get off of your mute buttons. And you have also got to talk, because the only way this can be transmitted is if we understand what you think or what you understand about it. So the first thing we want to talk about is, what is the meaning of the word moksha? Because that's central. Without having a proper meaning of the word moksha, we're not going to go. It'll be of no purpose to continue to study Tattva Bodh, because it said itself that I am for mumukshunam hitarthaya. Okay, so we're going to start with Chandan because he's new. Although he attended sessions before, he's new today. I know Chandan very well. I see him every day. So I feel comfortable going to him and saying, Chandan, let's talk about it. What do you... Everything is open? Yeah.
Yeah, I remember the first time when you talked about moksha, the thing that got imprinted on my mind is realizing the limitations that you said. You said you have to realize the limitations, and that is part of moksha, you told me.
Okay, you answered the question on what I said. I want to know what you think about it, because I want you to free your mind from what I have said and be able to think about honestly in your conception, because everybody has a understanding of the meaning of the word moksha, and we have to put it out there so that we can understand whether it is that or it is not. Because what we're going to talk about today is what is not moksha. We'll talk about what it is, but we also have to talk about what it is not.
I'm from Andhra Pradesh, right? So we call it moksham. And I used to know moksham means like becoming one with the God and exiting this cycle. Like ultimately, like you're going back to the God. So that is what moksham is to me before this class.
Got it. I made a note of it. Vidit, we've already heard from you last time, so I want one of these bullets are yours. I believe that your bullet was number 3. No?
So mine is first one, Shivram's is second one.
Okay, yes. I remember. Yes, that's right. Both of you have already provided your input. That's on the board. I'll put Chandan's in a moment. There's no space on that. Well, which brings us to Manu.
So because I'm an electrical engineer, I like to think of this as you should not laugh.
I'm not laughing.
Okay, so we should not, if you consider any conductor that can be charged with positive charge or negative charge. So if you are charged with positive charge, you can consider that to be punya. If you are charged with negative, then you can consider it to be papa. What is moksha is to get rid of all charges and get rid of the ability of being charged.
Is there any on these bullets that kind of is close to what you have in your mind? These are all thoughts of previous attendees.
Written getting rid of past karma and getting rid of samskaras printed on your mind, getting rid of vrittis. Don't have any desires is not moksha, because you can not have desires and still attain karma. And so it's like becoming neutral, and you get rid of all your charges, no positive, no negative, and you cannot even accumulate charges. So you can become something like that. Highest level of neutrality.
Got it?
No ability to attain karma phala. Okay.
Good enough, because punyas and papas are karma phala. So just using the language that is consistent with itself. And here's the one that Chandan described. Yeah, I think we've got Chandan yours in there. Shivram, we have yours. Jairamji, we have yours. Okay, so we've got a lot of definitions of moksha. But we got to ask, what is the meaning of the word moksha? The Sanskrit meaning of the word moksha is freedom. Freedom is the meaning of the word. And then the question becomes, freedom from what? What do I want freedom from? So you've all laid out things. For example, Manu is saying, I want freedom from both punyas and papas. I don't want the ability to collect karma phalas. So in an instant, what that would mean, so if I were to tell you that you want to attain a state where, if I were to tell you that if karmas are performed, karma phalas are going to occur at all times. That's a natural law that cannot be broken, right? So if there's a natural law that says that if karmas are done, then phalas will accrue. So you're saying, I want to go against the natural law and I want to be able to do karma, but not accrue karma phala. Fair enough. It goes against the natural law. Or you would say, I don't want to do karma at all, none whatsoever. In which case I would say that, well, for a living being, the ability to not do karma is impossible, because the very act of breathing is a karma. So two options. One, you don't live, then karmas are finished. There are no karmas to be done. A table, for example, does not do karma. No karma phala accrues to it. It becomes an inanimate object. It can neither collect punyas nor collect papas. It has nothing to worry about. And that would be one way to get there. To which I would ask, would you like to become a table? And the answer would be no, I do not. And if I were to tell you that the natural order of the universe is that human beings will perform karma. There is no two ways about it. And once karma has been performed, then karma phala will accrue. There is no two ways about it. then you would say, well, I want to violate the natural law of the universe. That's as good as saying I want to change whatever is referred to as the law of gravitation. So I say I'm going to break the space-time continuum and the law of gravitation because I wish to. To which I would say, okay, you can try. Both of these are impossibilities. One requires you to violate the laws of nature, and the other one requires you to become an inanimate object. Both of them seem, well, I'm not sure. And even if I did violate the laws of nature and I found a state like that, would I continue to be a human at that point in time? And the question will be, no. Yeah, I don't think I'll be continuing to remain a human at that point. So what would you be? And there is no conception of what that would look like. What about not having any desires? That was one of the bullets that we were looking at. Not have any desires. Is that something that we aspire to? And a lot of you said, no, that makes no sense. I am a human being. I am in many ways defined by my desires. Things that I like, things that I dislike, things that I pursue. So if I were to not have any desires, first of all, it violates the laws of nature, right? Anything that violates the laws of nature, we got to ask, how is that going to work? How is that to be accomplished in the first place when there is no natural order for that? Yeah, I can say, I can put the words together. I don't want to have any desires. But is it, right, let alone practical, is it even possible? And the answer is, that does not make any sense. As long as you continue to remain a human being, desires will be, any kind of living being. The only thing that doesn't have desires is my table. It doesn't have any desires. It doesn't have any karmas. It doesn't have any punyas. It doesn't have any papas. It also has no problems. It is not suffering from a sense of being a small table. If I bring a bigger table and place it right next to my small table, the table is not going to suddenly start feeling, oh, I'm so short. I wish I was a bigger table. Then I would have been useful. They would have put their computer on me. Nowadays, I just hold tea. I'm a short table, so I'm being used as a coffee table. If I was the moving table, the one that rises up and down, then I would have been used to. We place a computer on it. I would have had a great life. I would have been useful. I would have been much more valuable. The table doesn't feel that either. It has no sense of inadequacy like that. So the question becomes, do I wish to become a table? It's a facetious question, a rhetorical question. But what it is doing is it's asking us to dig deeper into what we understand by the meaning of the word moksha.
I think it might have to do something with doing karmas without having desires.
Now, that's a great question. Is it possible for me to do karmas without having desires? Is it possible for me to not have desires? The answer is, if you look at the construct of a human being, you have a body, you have a mind, you have intelligence, you have emotions. All of them are present at all times, as long as you're a human being. The only time they're not present, the emotions and the desires and the intelligence, is when you're in a state of deep sleep. They are not manifest. They are there, but they're not manifest at this point in time. So the question becomes, am I ever going to have a possibility of being able to do work without having any desire? The answer is, yeah.
I have a quick point. So
yeah.
Moksha itself is desire to attain moksha.
Yeah, exactly. Moksha itself is a desire to attain moksha. So how can I let go? Or this idea that I wish to have no desires. Perhaps I should say, I do not wish to suffer because of my desires. That makes it a more sensible, that makes it a much more reasonable sentence. I wish to have desires. Well, it's not like I cannot wish away something that was not mine to begin with, right? I did not wish to have desires in the first place, nor can I wish them away. A possibility of saying that, yeah, I'm just going to let go of my desires, that is childish to a certain extent. That sentence is incomplete. Perhaps you wish to say that I do not wish to suffer because of my desires. That I understand and that I appreciate. I do not wish to cause pain to others because of my desires. I value and respect. I completely appreciate that. That is a worthy goal for a human life. I wish to have desires that are going to be for the betterment of mankind. Yes, we agree with that. We don't disagree with that at all. The idea that I don't want to have desire for the sake of not having desires, there's something wrong in that sentence that needs to be completed. There's something missing in that sentence that needs completion.
Might be about the type of desires that we want.
Perhaps it is the type of desires, perhaps. But the thing is, with desires come action. With action comes result. With result, we're back to action. There is a very interesting word here that I wrote. I used the word karma phala. In Sanskrit, this word is used, karma phala, to describe what results from action. The reason they like to use this word is because, and I stick to it, what is the most important distinguishing feature of a fruit? What can be called a fruit? In order to be qualified to be called as a fruit, what needs to be in it? Seeds. Without seeds, it's not going to be a fruit. And what are those seeds? Those seeds, they grow more of the same plant and grow more of the same fruit. That's why they use the word karma phala, because as soon as the result comes, hidden in it is the seed for the next karma, because the phalas will keep coming and they are infinite because they are self-propagating, so to speak. What about the afterlife? So that's another big topic that we've talked about in the past, and let's revisit that. Perhaps.
Amitji,
Yes.
so you said you started with natural, and it violates the natural order, and then we come to the karma phala, and you are saying that fruit and seed, but of course we have now something that is not natural order, fruit without the seed, like seedless grapes.
Yes, we do.
So essentially, they are looking for seedless grapes.
And this is, I got to tell you something about Jairamji. He's a botanist.
I'm sorry?
He's a geneticist who works on food. So he knows exactly, yes, there are. And of course, the analogy falls apart. It's just an analogy. It is not, for any analogy, it is supposed to give an example and then it falls. The idea of karma phala, the way it is used in our context, is what we're saying is we're talking about traditional natural phalas. Now, for people who have discovered phalas that have no seeds in them, they also don't produce any offspring, right? They don't create any further fruits and so on. So you have to continue to perpetuate them some other way. Yeah, I don't know how they do it. I'm not a botanist or a food expert. I'll leave to Jairamji. So we want to talk a little bit about the afterlife then. What exactly would Swarga or the future hold for the Jiva? So you could say now all of these are talking about something that happens in the future. All of these are talking about something that happens in the future. So what is meant by the ability to go into so-called the good place? And so we had a student last time who liked to watch the TV show The Good Place, and so he used the word good place for it. We made a note of it, no worries. Swarga, is this something that we are looking for? What happens when you go to Swarga? Well,
So
yeah,
I think from what I understand is that once you collect a certain amount of punya in a lifetime, you go to Swarga, you exhaust your punyas. So punyas are kind of like money. So it's like how much of money you have, that much time you can spend in Swarga. You exhaust your punyas and then you go back to earth and for a second birth and collect more karmas and punyas and go back again.
Yeah, in some, there are many different stories about what it is. None of them can be validated. None of them can be verified. They are all what they are. They are a matter of belief. And I mentioned this last time too. If you talk to one of the poor children who live in India, who have to live on a day-to-day basis on the streets with no idea of where their next meal is going to come from, to them, you live in Swarga right now. Right now, they'll tell you, no. Where am I going to go? What Swarga are you talking about? You already live there. Because the word, the complete word, is Swarga Loka. And what is a Loka? A Loka is an experience. And on a day-to-day basis, if you look at it from a slightly different perspective, we experience some amazing things. I have the ability to call anybody I want in a matter of seconds. I do. I have the ability to do that. We have the ability to talk and have this session in completely different countries, right? You could very well be sitting thousands of miles away and you would be hearing my voice just like that. You talk to somebody else from just a few years ago, and they will tell you, well, are you talking about Swargaloka here? And at the same time, if you talk to the people in Ukraine right now, they're going to tell you what could be worse. Entire generations are being devastated. Students who were in universities, schools, education is completely disrupted. Having a disrupted education will prevent them from being able to actualize their potential for their entire generation. They will not be able to complete their studies. They will not be able to work to improve their nation. There's an entire generation of millions of people that are getting devastated. The human cost is mind-blowing. And so we can talk about collecting punyas and papas and expending and going somewhere and all of that. But what it is an experience. A manovritti is an experience. That's what the word vritti is, an experience. Right now, you're having an experience. You are experiencing space right now. You're experiencing time right now. You're experiencing my sound right now. You're also experiencing the meaning of my words. Automatically, they're being created in your mind right now. You are seeing, you're hearing, all of that is happening right now in your mind. That is the manovritti that is occurring in your mind. And no matter where you go, experience will be the same. Whether you go to Swargaloka or you go to Narkaloka, or whether you stay here and experience Swargaloka and Narkaloka, experience will stay the same. I can add more sensors to you. I can add more refined sensors to you. I can give you sensors that can give you the ability to see far. I can give you the ability of sensors that can look deeper to microscopic things, but the experience will stay the same. The manovritti in its totality will be the same. Whether you are experiencing tangible objects or intangible objects, your experience of understanding the model of the atom is entirely in your mind. There is no physical correlation to it. It is a mental construct. You can close your eyes and you can experience it right in front of you. That's the manovritti that you're looking at. The square root of -1 cannot be found, but it's there in your experience. In your mano akasha, square root of -1 exists. It has its meaning, it has its role. It is subtle, it is experienced, and you know what it is. No matter where you go or what you experience, the manovritti will be there. Whether you are in Swarga or whether you are in Narka, doesn't matter. The experience will be the same. Desires are experienced. Results of those desires, the rise of a desire is experienced. The death of a desire is experienced by you as well. There was a time when you did not know what a Tesla car was. You didn't know it. It didn't exist in your manovritti because it itself did not exist. And then it came into existence. And the desire for it came into existence. And one day you will have the object and you will consume the object and the desire will dissipate and go away as well. All of that you will experience. The rise of the desire, the experience of the desire, and the death of the desire. All three will come and go. They will all occur in your manovritti. Am I looking for freedom from manovrittis? What would you be if you didn't have any manovrittis? I'll tell you what you will be. It will be the table. We're back to the table, right? The table has no manovrittis. It has no mind. It doesn't have a brain. It doesn't have a mind. It doesn't have emotions, and it doesn't experience anything. Do I want to be that? No. Okay. I just want to experience good things. How's that for an attempt at defining moksha? All I want to do is experience good things. Very nice. That's okay. I'll tell you something about the mind. The mind is a differential sensor. It can experience hot because it can experience cold. It can experience light because it can experience dark. It is a differential sensor. It experiences both sides. In fact, it's a very interesting differential sensor. It doesn't have a baseline. You know what I mean? If you put your hand in warm water for long enough, it'll make that temperature normal to you. And only anything hotter than that will feel hot to you, and anything colder than that will appear cool to you. It has no baseline correction. That's why when you are sitting in a room and you say, I can't smell anything. Your roommate walks in and says, hey, I can smell all kinds of stuff here. You'll say, well, I've been sitting here long enough. It's baseline corrected. I no longer experience it. And that's why when you say that I am experiencing, when that child in the street says you're experiencing Swargaloka, you'll say, it's not my experience. It's because you've baseline corrected where you are. The mind is a differential sensor. If you're going to have plus, you're going to have minus. There's no two ways about it. That's how the sensor works. Unless you want to break the sensor. If you break the sensor, then it doesn't work. The human experience is over too, because it always comes with the plus and the minus. That's the law of nature. So if you say, I only want to experience good things, I'd have to say, you haven't understood what good things are then. Because if you did understand them, you'd realize that if you're going to have good things, you're going to have bad things too. The plus and the minus are always there. The mind functions like a differential sensor. I seem to be stuck now, right? It's not freedom from the liberation. Well, the first one we talked about at length last time, the cycle of birth and death, to which I asked, do you experience, is that in your experience? Are you experiencing birth and death? The answer from most people is no, but I've heard about it. I want freedom from the cycle of life and death. I'll say, have you experienced it? Not quite, not yet. Maybe someday I'll get to this point where I'll say. So what is it? What is moksha? That becomes the question. We've got some other things left on this list. We've got, I want to have infinite love of God. Fair enough. I won't say anything about that. That's not freedom from anything, right? Because moksha is freedom. Of course, by freedom, you would mean there are some chains, there are some restrictions, there are some limitations. And if you're saying that I want freedom from those limitations, that's fine. What does that got to do with infinite love of God? That's something else. We'll talk about that later. Becoming one with everything. Now I like that one. You want to become one with the table, right? Back to the table. Would you like to become one with the table? That means that next time somebody hits the table, you want to experience it? No, I didn't mean it quite like that. I appreciate that. I didn't quite mean it like that. I appreciate that. Becoming one with everything. That's a fantastic idea. It's a great concept. What does it really mean? And that's really what the crux of this class, the Vedanta class, is. That this is a very raw, unfiltered, honest conversation, because we got to get to the bottom of it. If it is meaningless, it is meaningless. We have to let it go. You want to become one with your neighbor. That sounds very creepy. Right? No, that's not what I meant. Only in notion. I don't know what that means. So if I really sit down and have a conversation, I say, I want to be one with everything. Every time my eyebrows will go, okay, all right, I would like to understand what that is. If you can explain that to me, I'll say, I experience everything all at the same time. You want to do that? Really? That means you'll be experiencing the war in Ukraine also at the same time. No, not that one.
I don't know. I think it means something to do with realization. Like, for example, if we go to the ocean example,
Yeah.
The ocean, there are different forms like water, wave, like small wave, big wave, medium-sized wave. But in the end, they are all water. They are all one component.
Yeah.
So I think it might have to do with that realization that we are all human beings, meaning we are all one component. So we like, in the end, we all are one thing, Brahman.
Yeah,
So I think
absolutely. No, that I do not disagree with at all. But the experience of oneness is not there. The knowledge of oneness is, right? There is a knowledge of oneness. There is an understanding of oneness, but there is no experience of it. I want to separate out this idea of experience from the knowledge or the understanding of what it means to be one. And even in that, we can stretch it a little bit more and ask some difficult questions. We won't do that right now.
Amitji, you are talking about experience and as a vritti. At the same time, when you use the word knowledge and understanding, how do you differentiate those two words?
That's a brilliant question, right? What is the difference between knowledge and an experience? Because knowledge, when it is present, will be in my experience. Want it? The fact that I can verbalize 4 words, I can speak that you're understanding me. I'm speaking for some amount of knowledge, right? You are experiencing it. Is there a line that can be drawn between knowledge and experience? The answer is, that's a good question. That is a very good question. I'll give you the example from the last class. Have you experienced...
like potential energy and kinetic energy?
Akshay is here.
Namaste, Professor. Yes.
Hi, Akshay. Long time no see.
Yeah. How are you, Professor?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Good.
Good for asking the question. I'll give you a slightly different explanation of experience and knowledge. And it's the one that I give all the time. I like it. It's a beautiful example. It talks about, you and I are standing together at the top of the mountain and looking at the sunset. Absolutely gorgeous. Pink skies, orange skies, black clouds. Absolutely gorgeous painting in the sky. We're looking at the sun going down. The experience is ecstatic. But the knowledge is that the sun does not set. It has never set. It is impossible for the sun to set. It's the earth which is rotating. And that knowledge doesn't rob the experience one bit. And that knowledge does not rob the experience or belittle it one bit. And at the same time, that experience does not generate knowledge. And even when you know that the sun is not setting, that knowledge is also in your experience. Agreed, 100%. And it doesn't modify your experience at all. So this idea of knowledge, ignorance, and experience, you don't have to hold on to this, because Tattva, the essence of the reality of all these three, is what we're going to talk about. What is the Tattva of knowledge? What is the Tattva of experience? What is the Tattva of ignorance? And it'll turn out that they are all the same, but we'll talk about it when we get there. But it's important to understand that experience does not directly lead to knowledge. Knowledge does not necessarily rob you of the experience. And it's good to have knowledge, great, but it doesn't alter your experience. Even when you know that everything is one, you will experience the pain of the loss of a loved one. Very important to understand. Even though you will know that everything is one, you will experience the hatred of seeing injustice being done in front of your eyes. That experience will not go away. You cannot change that, because that experience is part of the human being. Being a human is part of experiencing that. Well, that's the honest truth. I can't seem to figure out what this moksha is. So we'll take a little bit of help from the ancients. So what they pointed out was that the human being, so one thing I want to point out, Vedanta is very practical. It's very honest also, and it is also something to be understood. So it has no issues with going places or never turns away from looking at difficult questions or ugly realities. So it's a very practical sort of study. Purusharthas. So what we have developed is and we've talked about this, we have multiple models. For us all who are here, at least in this session right now, you know a lot about models, and we've talked about them last time. What is the purpose of a model? The purpose of a model is to answer a question. The question precedes the model. And the model needs to be only as complex as needed to answer the question. And for the same thing, you can have multiple models, depending upon the question that is being addressed. And we talked about this from a perspective of the human body. If you want to understand blood pressure, you need a model of blood flow within the body. It has got nothing to do with your neurons. If you want to understand neural aspects, you need a model of the neurochemistry of the body. Same body, different model. Depends on what question you're looking at. Right? It depends on what question you're looking at. Models are many. They never encompass reality. They can capture a facet, an aspect of reality. And so the question becomes, what was the question again? Because the model was developed to answer a question. So this is a very simple model. And sometimes you need the simplest model. Sometimes you don't need complex models. Sometimes you need very complex models. That's fine. We can have complex models. I'm not opposed to complex models at all. Sometimes we need very simple models to be able to explain it. This is a simple thing. I'll just explain it using a very simple model of the universe. Because the same Newtonian mechanics apply to the universe as well as quantum mechanics apply to the universe. It depends on what you're trying to answer. If you're talking about the car and how the accident occurred, you're going to use Newtonian mechanics to explain it. You're not going to use quantum mechanics to explain that. The question precedes the model. So this is a simple model. It talks about what is the goal of being a human being. Because when we started looking into this topic of moksha, we saw that a lot of it revolves around what does it mean to be a human. And so the ancients developed a simple model. They called it the Purusharthas model, which means that they're saying that, all of your goals, I can kind of, in an average sense, club them into 4 different categories. And refer to it as dharma, the category, artha category, kama category, and moksha category. And this moksha that we're talking about is the one that we're going to talk about now as well. Kama is very simple. It's something that we really understand. every single human being, every single living being will find itself attracted to something and repelled by other things. That's part of being a living being. They'll find themselves attracted to certain experiences, and they'll find themselves being repelled from others. For example, they will find themselves attracted to continue living, and they'll find themselves repelled from dying. Every living being will run away as soon as a threat emerges. And every living being will enjoy whatever aspects of living are going to be beneficial to it. Food, experiences, knowledge, pleasure, all of it. Karma is what makes the human's experience and the living being's experience absolutely beautiful. When you were standing on top of that mountaintop, enjoying that beautiful sunset, absolutely gorgeous, it was karma. Absolutely. Absolutely. We will climb that mountain in order to have a better experience of that pleasure. Climbing the mountain is a lot of work and difficult. Of course, sometimes they have rope trolleys that will allow us to go to the top, but most cases we'll take the pain in order to get to the pleasure at the end of it. Karma is an essential part of being a human being. It's an essential part of being a living being. In fact, it is a perfectly legitimate purushartha. While you're standing on top of that mountain and experiencing that sunset, you start wondering, do I have enough money to fill gas in my car tomorrow? Right? Because you're going to get down from this mountain, and you know that, and you're going to have to go and get some dinner, and you know that. And you got to make sure that you have the resources to take care of things. Take care of things tomorrow, take care of things day after tomorrow, take care of things thereafter. Security, an ability to be able to preserve the future is artha. Essential part of being a human being. Even squirrels squirrel away nuts. They do, don't they? Even dogs bury bones. For tomorrow. I don't know if I will be here or not, but today I got worried about it, so I took care of it. I was worried about it, so I took care of it. This is going to play a big role a little bit later when you want to take care of not only this life, but the next one as well. Because it doesn't stop. The tomorrow never comes and it never ends what tomorrow's definition is going to be. It could be tomorrow, it could be next year, it could be 30 years from now, it could be the next life. Perhaps you have a belief in that. Perhaps you look at Artha going all the way to the next life. And so it is part of that construct as well. So Artha is a legitimate, absolutely essential Purushartha. I want us to take a moment to reflect upon the fact that these are very legitimate and completely acceptable goals of human life. There is nothing wrong with pursuing karma, artha, as long as they are not going against dharma. Which brings us to the third purushartha, which is dharma. What is dharma? Sometimes it is translated as religion. That's not what is meant by the model that is being talked about here. Dharma is coming from the Sanskrit verb, that the root of which is dhri, which means to support, to provide a stable foundation. For what? For society. A human being is a social animal. For them to be able to survive, you need to have a stable, secure society. And dharma allows you to construct and recognize the foundations, the elements of society, the elements of nature that are sustaining life here. If we were all given to being thieves, society would collapse. And there is a reason why we take elements out of society. and put them in confinement. Because if everybody became like that, society would collapse. Right? So dharma is that which keeps society strong and stable. There are many other aspects to dharma, which are values that we have figured out that that's what human beings need to do in order to be able to maintain and have a sustainable society. As part of that dharma, we do charity. As part of that dharma, we take care of ourselves. You have a dharma towards your body. You absolutely do. Because if you don't take care of your body, who will? Whose dharma is it to take care of your body? Whose dharma is it to brush your teeth every night so that you don't develop cavities? It's yours. Whose else is it? Right? As simple as that. Taking care of your body, taking care of yourself, taking care of your family, taking care of your community, taking care of your city, taking care of your country, taking care of your planet. Whose dharma is that? Yours. Whose else is it? Some you do alone. You brush your own teeth. Nobody else comes to brush it. You tell your roommate, hey, today is your job, okay? He'll say, no, it's not. But cooking dinner, if you guys have a rotation for cooking dinner every week, somebody has a day. Everybody has to do their dharma, right? If 4 people live together and they have decided Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, we're going to cook, and the person on Tuesday doesn't do their dharma, who does it hurt? It hurts everybody. And it doesn't work. It is not sustainable. If that happens again and again and again, it collapses. Human beings have to do their dharma. What is their dharma? It will be obvious to you because it will be the one that will sustain your existence as human beings. It's actually generally quite simple what dharma is. Sometimes it can get very complicated. Sometimes it's relatively simple. I'm not going to say it's always simple. I'm going to say sometimes it becomes fairly complex. But you can always think it through. And another thing about dharma that is very important, dharma is not static. It is always contextual. You need to understand the context in order to be able to decide what is the right thing to do here. Your roommate has an exam. The person who's supposed to cook on Tuesdays. He calls you and says, I'm really struggling. I can't do this today. Can you help me out? Of course. If I have the ability, I'll do it. Maybe you'll be able to use that 3 times, that excuse, but not more than that. I'll have to draw the line and say, I did enough. You're going to have to repay it. And that would be absolutely legitimate. But dharma is contextual. As I mentioned earlier, the same man standing with a scalpel is a doctor surrounded by blood, and the same man standing with a knife over a corpse is a murderer. Context is all that matters. What was he doing? Was he trying to save a life or take a life? In both processes, he's going to cut the person open. Context is what matters. Dharma is not a static thing. You can read about it. There are certain precepts, certain values that we absolutely think are essential and they cannot be compromised at all. Hurting other people is not okay. It is just not okay. That's just not going to work. But there's a context to it. If the tiger is going to attack your village, it is your dharma to shoot it. I'm sorry, but it is. You can say that I practice ahimsa. I'm going to tell you, I'm sorry. That does not work, not in this context. You're going to have to take care of it because it's attacking your village. That beast has lost its, whatever has happened to it has lost its ability to think. The beast never had an ability to think, has developed an attitude that has become very hurtful to society. You're going to have to do what needs to be done. No doubt about it.
So, Amitji, here, are you saying that there is a greater value for the human life than the tiger life?
Value. And I always remind this to my children. How do you value a human life? In that question is something, value. What do we mean by that? What do I mean by the word value? I have a value for human life, I have a value for a tiger life. I don't know what that word even means. I know this, that if the tiger is attacking my village, it is absolutely my job to protect the village. There is no two ways about it. Now, if I can do it without hurting the tiger, I will do it. If I find out that the tiger, this is a tiger who's a mother who's trying to protect her cubs, there's some things I can do, but there are some things that are completely out of my control. I can try to remedy the situation and try to find, again, it's all contextual, right? It's all contextual. You have to look at what is going on. You have to think it through. And if you can't think it through, talk to people, talk to other people who will help you think it through. We'll have more data for you to be able to say, yeah, this is the right thing to do at this point in time. It's all contextual. Dharma is not a static thing. Values, there are certain global values that we will not compromise. Ahimsa continues to remain my paramo dharma, but even that requires me to interpret what that means. And if I can't interpret it, what good is it for me to be a human being? I've been blessed with a mind, I've been blessed with an intelligence, I've been blessed with the ability to read, to interact with people all across the planet. I can't think, what use is it? It's a purushartha dharma, the practice of dharma.
I have a question here, Professor. So
Yeah.
you said ahimsa paramo dharma. Where is it actually quoted?
It's I'll have to look it up. I don't remember exactly where it is written, but I'll find it for you. It's well known, so I've quoted it, but I don't remember the exact source. And
Or
you
is
know,
it-
multiple people quote it, so I may have lost track of where it originally appears.
Is it made up or was it actually in a text or something?
So this is a great question, Manu.
And what's the context in which it is used?
That's a great question. Does it matter if somebody else said it, or does it matter if I understand it? That's really the question. The fact,
You
Yeah,
can understand whatever you want, but it matters if it is said from experience or if it is just said to, if some murderer comes to your house and then tries to attack you, and then you say ahimsa paramo dharma, and I'll try to make you sit down and try to convince you that stealing from my house by killing me is wrong, you are probably not going to succeed in your efforts there.
that's exactly what I said right now.
Yeah, but you said
Exactly
that
what
if
I said.
there is a way, you have
If
to
there is
try
a
to.
way. Yeah.
Yeah. So
It is
there is
worth
a
trying.
way.
Yeah, there is a way.
You will be dead by then.
So is that a way? Is that a legitimate way? I mean, it's one thing to come up with a what if scenario, but at that instant in time, you know that's not going to work. Now you have an option
Yeah,
to
that's
choose
why I
what you
want to
want to do.
know, where are these ifs and buts defined, and where is that sentence taken from?
So how should I put it? I'll put it like this. There are no, as I said, dharma is always contextual. There are no ifs, no buts defined anywhere. It is entirely up to the individual to interpret. And that's very important to understand. That's exactly what I'm trying to say, is that there is no book, no reference that is going to tell you what to do. It will be entirely your responsibility to figure out what needs to be done and why it needs to be done. So if somebody said ahimsa paramo dharma, I need to understand what the word ahimsa means. It doesn't mean elimination of himsa, it means minimization of it. I've got to optimize it. Taking it to zero is impossible. I have to understand what it means, because if someone says, no, I'm going to be didactic about it, that's exactly what I have to do. I have to make it zero. They did not understand that it's contextual. It has to be understood. It has to be interpreted. And it's okay to make mistakes. That's the other important thing that you need to understand. It's okay to make mistakes. It's not the end of the world. If you thought something and you followed that path, and a few moments later you realize that's not right. I've made a mistake. This is not going the way I thought it was supposed to go. It's absolutely fine, because you still have the ability to think. The most important person who can implement dharma is sitting right there. It's you. Because you have the ability to think. You have the ability to confer with others if you find yourself not being able to think, if you find yourself compromised. There are so many people you can turn to for guidance. If you find that you are not being able to think it through because you're lacking information, all you have to do is look and ask. And if there is no time to look and ask and you have to do something right here, right now, do it. It needs to be done. There was no time to think. And there's no court sitting that's going to say, hey, you did this. This is terrible. I'm going to have to be punished. I'm going to be punished no matter what. And at least we'll do what I think and understand to be the right thing to do.
So I'll give you one more example. Dharmas can be one person's dharma will not be the other person's dharma. So
Yeah.
they can be counteracting. So the classic example that they gave is it's the shopkeeper's dharma to cheat the customers to get money, and it's not dharma to lose money on the customer side.
Mhm.
So if
Yeah.
if the same thing is applied to
Yeah.
ahimsa, one
No,
person.
let's stay with that example just for a moment, because I got to ask you, which one of them is going to sustain society? Because dharma is also not local. It's global too.
No, and
Just
this is in terms of being dharma of shopkeeper. This is never shopkeeper's dharma to cheat.
Great.
This may be an example created to explain, but by no means this is dharma of a shopkeeper.
Absolutely. Because I'll tell you what, Akshay, you nailed it, because if that is the dharma of the shopkeeper, they will not be able to sustain the shop.
Yes, shopkeeper's dharma is to provide the service they are granting and to make legitimate profit. They can make
Absolutely.
profit of 10,000% as long as they are making it in a legitimate way, not fooling the customers. So no cheating.
So I'll give you a higher level vision on this. You can start looking at it very locally. Sometimes all you have to do is zoom out one more level and zoom out one more level. And it will become very obvious to you what's going on. If you zoom in too close, as you try to read the book from too close, it's not clear. You have to have the ability to zoom out and look at what's going on. Shivram, you wanted to say something, and I guess Vidit, you also wanted to say something. Yeah. Go ahead.
So what I was saying is that I was just looking it up, and the full shloka of this ahimsa paramo dharma is actually ahimsa paramo dharma, dharma hinsa tadaivacha.
Yeah.
So that means that ahimsa is the biggest moral dharma, but doing violence or himsa for dharma is even more better. That is what the whole shloka is. And
Where is it
it's-
sourced from?
I have to go,
Mahabharata.
guys. I have a today I said I have a 6 p.m. hard stop. We should continue this topic, but this is not the subject matter of Vedanta, right? We'll remember that, because we have to get to the fourth Purushartha. We can spend all our time arguing what is this and what is that. The bottom line is dharma is contextual. Dharma is that which sustains the individual, the family, the society, the city, the country, the nation, the planet. That's how it works. Now, whatever sustains that is good. Now, you can interpret it in many different ways, and we can talk about multiple case studies, scenarios, this and that. We can do that next time. I have to go today. I'm out of time. So I'll continue this next week, and we'll talk about dharma again. We'll start with that, and then we'll go to moksha. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Shri Okay. Sounds good. Great discussion, and we'll continue. It's not over yet. We can come back and talk about it next time.